good thing about a HELOC is most of us, I'm sure got some type of credit card, right? If you know how to use a credit card, then you can use a home equity line of credit and you can do more with a home equity line of credit than you can do with your credit card. You could actually use your home equity line of credit and use that, and buy the car, right? The payment is going to be a whole lot cheaper. Title is what is a HELOC and how can you use it to invest in real estate? Truth be told, HELOC is one of my favorite investment vehicles, because the rate is really low. It's some of the cheapest money that you can get. And it's money that, we often don't even know that we have access to. We don't use it. Quick story of how I learned about, HELOCs years ago. I had a financial advisor and, I went into the financial advisor, went into the office and, we're talking and, we was going over finances. And, I had told him, I'm like, hey, I'm close to paying my house off. He said, oh, really? So where I come from, like, that's the thing, right? Like you pay your house off, you good. And so, he said, really? I was like, yeah, I'm almost, we don't have that much to go, much longer to go. And he said, so what are you going to do once you pay it off? I said, nothing. I said, I'm going to just have it paid off. That's what I'm going to do. Like, that's the plan. He said, Sean, so you mean, and this was around that time, the house was probably worth about $400,000. He said, Sean, he said, let me ask you this. But I know you probably, if it's almost paid off, you probably had the house for a while. I said, yep, we had it for a good little while. He said, you know, how much the house is worth? How much is it worth? I said, 400,000. He said, how much is your monthly payment? And, since we had gotten it cheaper, years ago, my monthly payment was only about $1,000, right? So he said, you're going to pay off a $400,000 asset and do nothing with it just so you can save $1,000 a month. And I was like, yeah, when he started saying it to me, it started making more sense. Like, dang, right? I got $400,000 sitting here and really, I'm pressed to save $1,000, right? And I said, so, what should I do? And he said, I tell you what, don't just let it sit there. I was like, yeah, I get that now. Like, tell me what should I do? He said, you ever heard of a home equity line of credit? I said, nah, never heard of that. So he went on to explain, what it was all about and the benefits of it. And, I was like, wow, he said, yeah, this is what, my clients, a lot of my wealthy clients do. They get HELOCs on their home and they use HELOCs to invest in real estate. They use HELOCs to pay for their children's college. They, use HELOCs to start businesses. They use, HELOCs to pay off other debt. They use HELOCs to pay off car loans. So you can use a HELOC for just about anything. You can use a HELOC if you want to, add a pool to your house or add an addition to your house. And I'm like, whoa, hold up. I never thought about that. And he's like, yeah. And the good thing about a HELOC is, you can pay it back down like a credit card. I'm like, really? I said, hold on. You mean to tell me that you can borrow against the house, right? You can use that money. And then you're saying that if I get money, if I make money or have other funds, I can pay that off and I won't have a payment on the HELOC. Like, yep, just like a credit card. Whatever you only pay on what you use, right? And I'm like, wow.
Right.
I said nobody in my circle was talking about that. Now, not when I came up. I said nobody told me about this. I didn't know that's something you could do, right? It was just a matter of like, first of all, if you get a house, that's a blessing, right? Then once you get it, try to pay it off as quickly as you can. And that was it. That was the goal. There was nothing like, I guess, as I got older, started to realize like, oh, it's something that you can pass on to, the next generation, right? But you can still do that. Even when you use a HELOC, you can still pass it on, the house on to the next generation. Truth be told, you're probably going to be able to pass on even more if you use the HELOC and leverage it in the right place. So HELOC stands for Home Equity Line of Credit. You got another one that some people, it's not as popular, but it is out there. It's called a home equity, a loan, a home equity loan, right? And the difference between the home equity line of credit and the home equity loan is the home equity line of credit. It's just like what it says. It's a line of credit. So you only pay based upon what you use. And then if you pay it down, say you pay it to zero, you don't have a payment on it, right? So it's a truly a line of credit. With a home equity loan, you get all your money out that you want to get at that particular time, and you start making a payment on it right away. I don't like that because, me personally, if I have a home equity loan and they give me $100,000, I might not need to use all of the $100,000 right away, right? But then I got to make a payment on that $100,000 right away, even though I'm not using all of it. So personally, I don't really care much for a home equity loan. I prefer the home equity line of credit because you get the best of both worlds. I have access to the $100,000, but I don't have to make a payment on the $100,000 until I use a portion of it. So if I use only $20,000 of it, my payment is only based upon 20,000 of that, right? So I thought that that was powerful. So that's how I kind of used my house to really start, investing in real estate. Some of you guys have heard my story before. I say, like, we started with one house, my primary residence. I had that equity in there, and I used the equity to buy more houses. And once I bought more houses and I flipped them or whatever, I would keep the profit, pay off the HELOC again, so I wouldn't have a payment, right? I wouldn't even have I might have a payment for about 6 months while I'm acquiring and flipping and selling the property. But after I pay back the HELOC and I, put my profit in the bank, I didn't have a payment on it, right? So I use my primary residence to buy investment property. That's literally how we got started into real estate investing. So HELOC is super powerful. And I noticed that a lot of people don't actually use it. A lot of people really don't understand it. A lot of people aren't familiar with it. One thing that a lot of people are familiar with is, sort of like, it's really like the same thing as a home equity loan. It's a cash out refinance. Have you guys ever heard of a cash out refinance before? So that's what most people do. They don't really, talk about the home equity line of credit. And a lot of lenders, they won't talk about a home equity line of credit because what happens is for most lenders, they get more of a commission when you do a cash out refinance because you're cashing out on that amount, that you're borrowing. But on the home equity line of credit, they don't get paid as much commission. So a lot of lenders just they don't put that out there first, right? And so, like I said, I had to learn from my financial advisor what a home equity line of credit was, and it's powerful. I mean, the interest rates are lower. You're basically only paying interest on that, so you don't have to pay like on a regular mortgage. You have to pay principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. When you're doing a HELOC, it's interest only, so your payment is really, really low. Black, I don't know if you can come off of mute. If you don't, well, I'm putting you on the spot. If you don't mind sharing a little bit of your story, and I can give a little bit of a background with Black. Can you come off of mute, Black? You will be able to chime in. Okay. If you can jump on, Black, cool. But if you don't mind me sharing some of your story, give me a thumbs up if you're okay with that. So I know I can't, you won't unmute. So if you don't mind me sharing a little bit of your story, just shake your head yes or thumbs up, and I'll share a little bit. But the bottom line is, I've helped several people get access to their home equity line of credit. And basically the home equity is exactly what it sounds like. You getting access to the equity that's in your home, the equity that you have in your property, right? This is another thing that I've learned over the years where people, everybody loves to look at HGTV and Zillow and all that stuff. We all we all love real estate, right? We love like kind of looking at it. So people will go on Zillow every now and then and look at the value of their house or realtor.com or whatever your favorite site is. And they'll look at the value of their house. They'll see houses in their neighborhood and people will be like, oh, my house is worth 500,000. My house is worth 600,000, right? Like, it's good. Like that's a beautiful thing. But the more important thing is, what are you doing with that value? Right? Because there's times where the market changes. And if your house goes down in value, you could have accessed $800,000. You could have accessed some of that equity, but now you done lost like $100,000 of equity, right? So if you're not utilizing it, like there's really, you're just, you know, you just got it there for fun, right? So I'm just saying, if it's there, you need to know how to use it and use it correctly, responsibly, and the right way, right? It's ways to make money off of that, right? And so that's really just an option to use that home equity line of credit. You can use like we talk about hard money lender. We've talked about that a few times. You can do that. You can use private lending. So there's other sources, but home equity line of credit is one of the cheapest that you can get. Some of the cheapest money that you can get. The reason why the money is cheap is because the lenders, they know that you have equity in your house. And most of the time, the home equity line of credit is really like a second mortgage on your house, right? And that's another thing. Some people like, oh, it's a second mortgage. Okay, fine. I mean, you just, if you understand how to use it, that's the most important thing, uh, uh, like I've helped people basically a car note. Like if cars nowadays, the average car is like $40,000. Actually, I think it's like higher, $40,000 a month, right? I'm sorry, $40,000 for a car. The payment on a car like that is probably going to be around about $600 a month. Well, you could actually use your home equity line of credit and use that and buy the car, right? The payment is going to be a whole lot cheaper. Let me see if I can pull up this site right quick. Okay. So just going to use this quick example right here. You have, I was saying a car amount, 40,000, right? And you got the interest rate on this HELOC. It's probably running about, 6 to 7%. I'm gonna just go with the high end, 7%. Uh, you got what's called a draw period. That's the time that you can draw down, use it or whatever. Then like if you don't use it all, by then you can refinance and start the HELOC over again, right? So that's the draw period, 20 years. And on $40,000, your monthly payment is only going to be $233, right? $233 on a $40,000 line of credit. So you can use that money and pay your car off, and you will be saving about $400 right away, right? So, I know that all of us on this call, we're old enough to remember the saying, a penny saved is a penny earned. What happens
Right.
is when you are saving now, as opposed to paying $600 for the car, you're only paying $200 for the car. So you're saving almost $400. And by saving that $400, that's more money that you can use to pay down other bills, or you can use that money to invest, right? So it's all about the holistic approach of how you're handling your finances, right? When I'm talking about real estate investing is really just a vehicle, but anything that can help you to pay down your debt or help you to make money, that's what we're talking about. And so one thing I like about using the HELOC is not only, you're able to use that money to invest, but you can use that money to pay down your debt. And once you pay down that debt, that allows you to increase your cash flow, right? So it's, you know, basically two main ways to get out of debt. Either you are saving more money or you making more money, right? My thing that I've learned over the years is saving money is good. The saving money won't make you wealthy. Saving money will help you, but you have to learn how to make the money that you have work for you, right? So that's what I like about the HELOC. And that's a strategy that I've helped people use. I help people get access to their equity, and they'll just pay their car off, right? So pay their car off instead of having a 600, 700, $800 payment. Their payment goes to like $200, right? $200. So that's them saving money right then and there. Even if you increase this amount, I'm gonna increase this. Say if you found a property and you needed $100,000, calculate this. Your monthly payment on $100,000 is only going to be $600, right? So that is, you can't get money that cheap anywhere. So a HELOC allows you to borrow money at a way cheaper rate, increase your cash flow, and I just want to kind of go what they say the definition is, so we're on the same page too. So a home equity line of credit is a revolving line of credit secured by your home, allow you to borrow against your home's equity. Much like a credit card, just like I mentioned, you can draw funds up to a set limit. You repay them and borrow again. You only pay interest on the exact amount you use. A HELOC functions as a second mortgage, meaning your primary home is used as collateral. Because of this security, HELOCs are often HELOCs often offer significantly lower interest rates than traditional personal loans or credit cards. So the good thing about a HELOC is most of us, I'm sure, got some type of credit card, right? If you know how to use a credit card, then you can use a home equity line of credit, and you can do more with a home equity line of credit than you can do with your credit card. With a credit card, you got to remember, if you want to get access to cash in your credit card, they had what's called a cash advance. Most credit card companies only allow you to advance up to about 20% of whatever your credit limit is. So let's just say if you have $10,000 credit limit on the card, you can only get $2,000 as a cash advance. Whereas though with a home equity line of credit, whatever your line of credit is, whether it's 100,000, 200, 3,000, 300,000, you get access to that, all of that cash if you need to. So that's the powerful thing about that. Black, I see you came on and came off, came back on. Uh, is your mic working? Okay, no worries. I'll get you to share next time. But yeah, Black leveraged his home equity line of credit, and it was a game changer for him. So ever since I did that, my financial advisor advised me of that years ago. I've been using home equity line of credit to invest any property that I have, primary residence that I get. I'm always leveraging a home equity line of credit. I'm actually taking advantage of the equity I got in the property, and I'm making my money work for me. Like that's important, that you make your money work for you. Like I said, you can save money, but if you really want to change your life, you got to learn how to invest and make your money work for you. So any questions on what a HELOC is and how to use it in general? Any questions so far? Cool. So basically, with a HELOC, you don't really have anything preventing you from using the funds that you have access to, from using that to invest in real estate. You can use the HELOC fund if you want to use it as a down payment on the investment property. You can use a HELOC if you have enough on your HELOC, you can use it to buy a property outright. What I usually advise is to use it as down payment, because therefore you might can buy several properties if you're just using a down payment, right? Say for instance, you have $100,000 in home equity line of credit. You have that line of credit, $100,000, right? And say you find an investment property that's $100,000. On average, you may have to put down 20%. We'll just use that because sometimes you may have to put down about 20%. If you got to put down 20%, on $100,000 investment property, you already got access to $100,000 of your home equity line of credit. So that means that in all actuality, if you had 5 different investment properties that you wanted to pursue, you could put 20K down on 5 different properties. That's what I do. I usually try to like buy like about 2 properties at a time, right? Anytime I get access to a lump sum of money, I try to leverage that as a down payment for at least 2 to 3 properties. So as opposed to me just paying all straight up cash, like if I spent the $100,000 on one property, then I have to, wait till I finish this one property, wait to get all my money back. With using the HELOC and using the money as down payment, I get to duplicate this across 5 separate properties. So I put 20,000 down on property number 1, 20,000 down on property number 2, property number 3, property 4, property number 5, right? So I can use it. So that's what I like using HELOCs for. For I like using them for down payment when it comes to real estate investing. The other thing, like I said, I like using them for if I have, any bills like a car note or something that's high, or if I have a credit card bill that's high, I like to use the HELOC to pay those off, because if I have like a higher interest credit card, so like I said, you're going to have a home equity line of credit and your interest rate is probably going to be right now. This depends on what the interest rates are, but probably about 6 to 7% right now. So think about it. The average credit card nowadays are like 20% on up. So if you take, and you got a credit card with, a $20,000 balance, $10,000 balance, or whatever it might be, at a 20% interest rate, that payment is going to be much higher than if you just paid that credit card off with your HELOC funds or whatever, right? So it's all about looking at, you make money when you buy property at the right price, and you make money when you manage your money correctly. All right. So anytime you can have a situation where you are paying a lower interest rate or a lower monthly amount, that actually increases your cash flow. That's the thing that I didn't understand in the past, right? Anytime you saving money, you making money, right? Listen, does that make sense? Anytime that you
Yes, sir.
saving money, you making money, right? So that's the mindset shift I want you guys to understand, right? And then when you saving that money, you making money, you got choices, you got options with that extra money that you making. Maybe you got other bills, you can pay that down. So those are other advanced things that we're gonna, teach you guys in this program about, debt pay down acceleration. So accelerating that, right? It's all about becoming financially free as soon as you possibly can. So it's a holistic approach. So you want to leverage that HELOC to do multiple things. That's one reason that I love real estate so much, because it's one thing, but you can do multiple things with it. You can borrow against it. You can leverage it for something else. You could sell it. You could rent it. You could Airbnb it. There's just so many things that you can do with one asset. And so I love that, right? And with this HELOC, you can do several things with the HELOC.
So if you're serious about building wealth through real estate, check out my website. It's Skills Up, Sean K. Langston, Skills Up with Sean K. Langston. Also, check out my YouTube channel where I'll be posting new content every single week. Every week I'll be posting new content, so tune in. All right, see you on the other side.